Hello, I'm Bri Grills. Very recently, an interaction on Twitter led to me researching a book. The exact terms of the Twitter interaction are irrelevant, but I ended up commenting something like, "What if we've already died, but we're already living our own versions of heaven or hell?" And then somebody, I can't remember who, commented and replied to my ex post, the Third Policeman. So I thought, the Third Policeman. So I googled the Third Policeman, and it comes up with this book, The Third Policeman, by a fella called Flann O'Brien. Now, Flann O'Brien is a pseudonym of a fella called Brian O'Nolan, born in Strabane, County Tyrone in 1911. He was a civil servant, so he had to use a pseudonym because he was also a journalist. He published in the local newspaper and stuff. Did a bit of a column. So he was a journalist and a civil servant, which is why he's used the name Flann O'Brien. If we don't cherish the work of Flann O'Brien, we are stupid fools who don't deserve to have great men. Flann O'Brien is a very great man, says Anthony Burgess. Don't know who Anthony Burgess is. I'll read you the blurb from the back, and I'm not going to go into the story too far. It says, Flann O'Brien is inventive. His storytelling is swift and sure, making the eccentric seem natural and the commonplace hilarious. Yes, a murder thriller, a hilarious comic satire about an archetypal village police force, a surrealistic vision of eternity, the story of a tender, brief, unrequited love affair between a man and his bicycle, and a chilling fable of unending guilt. The Third Policeman is comparable only to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, having read the book, as an allegory of the absurd, definitely absurd in places, distinguished by endless comic invention and its delicate balancing of logic and fantasy. The Third Policeman is unique in the English language. So far, so true. Even with Ulysses and Finnegan's wake behind him, James Joyce might have been envious, says the Observer. Nothing less than dazzling, maddening and dizzying, heady and exhilarating. It is literally funny as hell, says Time. I suppose that's Time magazine. The best of Flann O'Brien's contemporaries and many subsequent Irish writers have much to thank him for, says the Sunday Times. Now it's a pretty thin book, really. It's not War and Peace. I read it in one day. In the crimbo limbo period, that phase between Christmas Day and New Year's, where you've totally lost track of time, you don't know what's happening, you don't know what day it is. That crimbo limbo is a phrase I heard recently, and I read this in a day. It was a rainy day, I think, and I just sat down, got into it, and didn't put it down until I'd got to the very, very end. It's got some good write-ups from some distinguished sources: The Observer, Time, Sunday Times, probably Anthony Burgess as well. So I'll put a link in the description box below, because it's only a cheap book. It's not expensive. It's only just a paperback book. But I would say it's definitely worth reading. It's definitely worth reading. I thought I'd bring it out to the woods today because two of the things I like to do the most is get into the woods, and when I can't get to the woods, reading an interesting book. We'll call it an interesting book. If you've already read The Third Policeman, please leave a comment in the box below telling me what you thought of it. I don't want to go into the actual story, and because it will spoil it. I can't do it justice. as it is. But if you've read it, please feel free to leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. If you haven't read it, I recommend you do. It's only a cheap book. I think it's a £5 on Amazon. I'm not paid in any way to endorse this book, but you know, it's definitely an interesting story. You know, give it a whirl. See what you think. What's the worst that can happen? It costs you £5, and then you put it in a charity shop or something, or whatever. What's the worst that can happen if you don't like it? So, one of those books I think everybody should read, and it all came from one chance interaction on X, which I'm on all the time. So yeah, let me know if you plan to buy it, or if you have bought it, or if you want to read it, or whatever. Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.